So welcome here. I'm Stephanie Staples, and I am going to be leading the next little bit of time. The topic is emotional wellness for turbulent times. And I just want to give a little bit of a disclosure right up front. First of all, I'm not a proficient Zoom user, so this is kind of new to me. And also, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a rewired nurse and a regular person who has also never been through a pandemic before, but just kind of looking for ways that I could help. And like, what could I do, in a short amount of time, in a short turnaround time, to try and make me feel like I was doing something positive and proactive. So that is kind of what this is about. I'm super open to your questions or thoughts, and it can be definitely, a conversation going back and forth. And what happened today is I just decided I'm just going to do it today. I'm going to record it and people can listen to it whenever. But I thought if I wait till I'm ready, if I wait till everything's perfect, it'll probably be, too late. It needs to happen now. So that's what I'm doing. It's under the heading of done is better than perfect. So let us begin. The first thing I want to talk about is just kind of acknowledging where we're all at now, and this flurry of emotions that we've never seen before, and we maybe don't know what to do with. And welcome everybody. Nice to see y'all. So just acknowledging where we're at. So I think, if you have a pen and paper handy, that wouldn't be the worst idea. What I realized when I was kind of planning for this is that it's probably a lot. When you start hearing like, well, all the tips for this and a tip for that and a tip for the other, and then sometimes we get overwhelmed with too many tips and then we don't do anything. So what I actually spent today doing is making over 30 2-minute videos. So what's going to happen is they'll be released like one per day or whichever. And I just think that'll be an easier way for people to like get a nugget and then kind of process it and decide if they want to use it or not. But today I'm gonna do a bit of a dump on you. And if you can grab one or two that you think you can actually use, then absolutely that's what we're after. But just recognizing sometimes when you get too much information, you end up doing nothing. And that's not what we want to do today. We want to just pick one idea that's like, oh, okay, I could maybe do that. So the first thing is the emotions. All the emotions is turbulence of craziness. And today I'd like you to just pick one emotion. So one emotion that's been maybe weighing on your mind or heavy on your heart or, keeping you up at night or whatever, amidst the flurry of emotions that are going on. Can you just pick one, identify one that you would like to kind of work with or play with today? So if you could write that down or plan it in your head or whatever. So for me, the one I want to deal with is disappointment. So I just feel like a huge disappointment in humanity when I see all that crap that's going on out there and people not being good to each other and not helping and not sharing. And it really just bothers me to the core of my being. So the one I'm going to deal with today is just disappointment. So when we can narrow those down instead of a flurry of emotions to just one, then we can ask ourselves what I think is the most important question, and that is, what is my role in this? What is my role in this? So there are so many things that we can't control with what's going on, but there's a lot of things we can. We can control our own thoughts, our own actions, and our own feelings. We can control those things. So if we can narrow it down to one emotion, what are one or two or three things that you can do to make you feel like you're having some semblance of control over that emotion? So I don't know if anybody else wants to talk besides me, but it's always more fun when somebody else talks. So that would be good. If you want to unmute yourself, that would be cool. And I know we have a lot of smart people on the line here. So let's go for a little two-way conversation here.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Linda.
Thanks for doing this.
Oh, thanks for coming along. What pops into your head when I say that?
I think a little gratitude practice can really help. Just focusing even for a little bit on what is good, what is nice, what feels nice right now in your life.
Absolutely.
That balance out the negative.
Yeah. So specifically about that. So and I find, with a lot of these tips, and again, you don't need to sit on a webinar to find out how to be emotionally well. You're not going to hear anything here today that's like, oh my God, I never thought of that. You probably aren't. But when we have the concept, so the concept is be grateful, right? It's hard sometimes to bring things down from that concept into like, okay, like how specifically, like take care of yourself, but how specifically do we fit that into our life? So to have a gratitude practice, could mean something very specific, like when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. Before I go to bed, I'm going to write down 1 paragraph of things that I enjoyed today. One of the things, I'm just going to stand up for a minute because it's right behind me here. Well, one of the things that we did when the kids were younger is I had a little book and I passed the book around the table at meal times. And I said, we're going to write down every day something that we're grateful for that happened today. And of course, you can imagine their delight. They're like, no, we're not. That's dumb. But I just kept doing it. I put a little initial by everybody's name, and the book would go around the table. And it's so funny to look at right now, because some days it'd be super easy to write down things that something great happened to you. But some days, like, somebody wrote down there, thankful for clean underwear and good watermelon and funny things like that. But what it did is it gave us an opportunity to have discussions that weren't just like, how was your day or whichever. It was a specific gratitude practice. So I might ask you then, instead of just saying, I'm going to be more grateful, how specifically can you push that gratitude into your life? What time of day? What do you need to make that happen? Who are you going to take on board with you? How are you going to ensure that it actually happens? How are you going to feel once that's executed? And that's a really super proactive and positive thing to do. Ruhi, it's funny because her picture is a baby's hand, so it looks like you're raising your hand, like somebody's raising their hand, but that's not the case. But does anybody else want to weigh in on what has been discussed so far?
Happy to weigh in on the picture. I think it has a few different meanings. 1, stop the virus. 2, just giving a high five. And 3, when I saw him last, he was only about 2 weeks, and now he's a month and a week. So his hand has grown. So she sends me pictures of his hand. That's my nephew's hand.
But I'm not.
And they're in Ontario, and we're in Winnipeg, so we're not going to be doing a trip out there anytime. So the picture's a little bit bigger. It has his dad's hand and his older brother's hand. But I just figured it's kind of has like a few meanings, and just that I'd put it up as my picture.
I love it. So I'm going to use that one then to bounce off, because one of the other things for emotional well-being is to surround yourself with beauty, to surround yourself with things that make you happy. So that might be, baby's pictures. It might be colors, yes, black is slimming and all that business, but what about like throwing on some extra bright colors or an extra bright scarf? And I said that I'm kind of in, but it's a leopard print or something, so it's kind of fun. But something, that just surrounds you with beauty. I have up here, there you can see my orchid. I usually have it on the kitchen table, but it's bloomed for the first time. It's the first time I've ever had an orchid that's bloomed twice. And every time I see it, I feel better. It gives me a little lift. So surrounding yourself with beauty, especially when there's a lot of going on, is another way to keep yourself emotionally well. And nothing like looking at something to do with a baby that would definitely do that for you. Would anyone else like to chime in? Okay, I'm going to keep going.
I'll chime in, Steph.
Chime. Hi, Wendy.
Hi. Long time no see.
Yeah, great to see you. Welcome to Canada.
Yeah. Well, I listened to an interesting podcast today from Brene Brown, who I love. And she, I don't know if anyone heard it. She just posted it, but she was talking about what she calls FFTs. I don't know if any of you have heard about that yet, but well, the first F is, I don't know if I can swear on this little.
Go ahead.
I'll let you all guess what the first F is.
Okay.
And then first times. And so she was talking about how as humans, when we go into something the first time, how difficult it is. And if we're uncomfortable, how we just tell ourselves it's impossible, it's ridiculous, it's garbage, whatever. And this is an FFT for all of us.
Yes.
And so our way of being in it is, of course, to fight it at a certain level, because none of us understand it. And so while I've been quite proud of myself, because I've been trying to stay in gratitude, we're on day 8 of our self-isolation, I'm finding that I'm trying to navigate, kids who are struggling, friends, family, etc. And she said something else that I loved, and that is, at the same time, while we're in that gratitude, it's okay to feel anything else that's coming up, and don't discount it, and don't shame yourself for others for feeling it. Because I think I'll speak for me. I mean, our minds are going to, how long is this going to go on? I mean, if somebody told me I had to do this for 37 days and I'd be finished, okay, I can do it. Even 48 days. But, you hear 6 months, 8 months, 18 months. And then if you let your mind go off, I'm finding that that's where I really start to tank. And so what I'm trying to do is, when I go there, at least allow myself, not beat myself up, not beat my kids up if they're doing it or whoever, and just try to offer something that's helpful at that moment in time, and then carry on with that day. Because talk about one day at a time. Holy cow. I don't know if there's any other way to do this one.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's helpful. So kind of the acronym that I use is NAP. So it's like not this kind, but that kind is good too. It's to just notice the feeling that's happening. It's like, that's okay. Like, oh, that's interesting. That's curious. That's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, body. That's interesting. And that acknowledgement. It's like, okay, that's good. There's no right, there's no wrong. It just is what it is. And then the P is for plan. So kind of like I said at the beginning, we just pick one of those emotions and then make a little bit of a plan to start dealing with it. Right. So if you know what kind of triggers you into this downward spiral of catastrophizing or awfulizing, or making it longer than it needs to be, or whatever it is, to pull back the reins on that. How do we stop that from happening, right? So the news fast, right? It reminds me of 9/11, where I just remember the buildings going, the planes going through the building, the planes going through the building. How many friggin' times do we need to see the plane going through the building? We know what happened. Right? We know to an extent what's going on out there. It's not great. We know some things that we can do to control it. People way smarter than us are doing stuff to help get this under control. How much news do we need to take in? So maybe you just decide, I'm just going to listen to the 5 o'clock news. I would strongly advise to not be listening first thing in the morning to start your day off like that. And I would definitely not be listening last thing before bed, because that's not what we want to be putting into our heads. But if you want to get you caught up in the middle of the day or whatever, that's fine. But how much do you need to know to be able to function? And where is that level that just makes you start spinning downward? Because I feel like people are watching us, right? And when I look back at this thing in next year and in 5 years and in 10 years, and I see how I handled it, or was I curled up in a corner, scared and afraid? Was I being productive, positive, proactive? How was I handling this situation? And I want to be able to go, we handle it as best we can given all the other circumstances. And that's why, we need to be really on top of our self-care and really working on our emotional wellness so that we have the tools to be able to handle this better. And I mean, some days are going to be better than others. Some hours are going to be better than others. And I think self-compassion is highly underrated, right? We say things to ourselves. We think things to ourselves. We say things about ourselves that we would never say, even to people that we don't like. So maybe, thinking about that when we're saying, I'm so stupid, I'm so forgetful, I'm so this, I'm so that, is like just being a little bit gentle with ourselves. But yeah, we don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to know everything about everything. We can be a little bit gentle with ourselves as we navigate this difficult time, as we try and help each other. And it's okay not to know, and it's okay to be hurting, and it's okay to be afraid. But, to maybe put some boundaries around that time. And one of the other techniques that I use is called the BMW session. And now that Wendy's got us all started off with swearing, it stands for bitch, moan, and whine. So, so what it is kind of a permission to be like, blah, like, I just got to get this out. But it's to put a boundary around that time. So I'm going to go, first of all, with a safe person. So not with somebody who's going to like feed into my frenzy and make it worse. I'm going to go with a safe person. I'm going to go to a safe place, not a place that it's going to be, you know, contagious to other people and emotionally. And I'm going to go in a place that I'm going to give it a boundary of time. So maybe 5 minutes. I just need to let loose on this for like 5 minutes. Just let me go. A BMW session. And then when it's over, you set the timer, however many minutes, a reasonable amount of time. And when it's over, you have another BMW session, and that stands for breathe and move forward willingly. Now, usually our lungs are, we have about a third of capacity that we're breathing normally, but just taking that deep breath in, all our cells are getting filled up and they're like, thank you, that's helpful. And then you're going to make a plan to move forward willingly. So you're still allowing yourself that time to, but you're putting a boundary on that time. Does anyone else want to talk? This is called sitting through the uncomfortable silence.
Hey, Stephanie.
Yes.
I liked the idea of when you're in the gratitude practice, allowing anything that comes up to feel that and to, it gives you permission to express, you know, and so I think a lot of times when you do that, you let that tension go, or, you know, maybe it's, you know, you cry or you scream or whatever it is, just allowing whatever surfaces to be and to be with it however you need to be is a great way to physically look after yourself as well. So I quite like that suggestion. And I think it ties in with your self-compassion.
Yes, thank you. So actually, speaking of the crying, have you ever like, or laughing or whatever, like I remember once like crying all the way home from a movie, and it wasn't that the movie was that sad. It's just that I needed that physical relief from doing that, and it just felt so good. And the same thing with crying, that I started laughing ridiculously, but it wasn't even that funny, but it's that physical relief that just feels so good, and we need to allow ourselves to do that. And you're right, it totally fits in with the self-compassion. Another thing you might want to try, and I wrote about it in my newsletter a couple weeks ago, I think, is the free fall writing. So what that is just using one word to just write. So again, you set the timer for whatever, 5, 10, 7 minutes. And you can take a random word or a word that's maybe been bothering you, and you just start writing and let everything that's been in your head and in your heart, nobody else has to read it. There's no editing. You're just pen to paper the whole entire time till the buzzer goes up. And if you just want to keep writing after the buzzer, that's fine too. But it's called free fall writing. It's a really good way to get all that crap that's buzzing around in your head out in a productive fashion. Pause. Dramatic pause. Okay, I want to talk about sleep, because, you know, it's funny when people think about wellness, everybody, you know, thinks about, you know, eating better, sleeping better, physical activity, like all those normal things. But to me, I think like sleep is it's like number one. And everybody tells you all those things. But again, it's how to get it from concept to how do I actually make it happen? And yeah, you should go to bed. Yes, you should get your sleep. Yes. But how do we do that amidst all these other things that are going on and our competing priorities, et cetera, et cetera? So here is my technique for getting sleep. So figure out what is your sweet spot, your perfect amount of sleep. Like what amount of hours? Like for me, it's like 7 hours. If I can have 7 hours of sleep, I just feel good. Like I'm on top of my game if I'm 7 hours. More bonus, but less and not so good. So if I know that I need 7 hours of sleep, I have to count backwards from that. So what time do I have to go to bed to make sure that I get my 7 hours of sleep? Now, that would be fine, but it's not like all of a sudden at whatever your time is. At 10:30, I'm going to go to sleep now. It doesn't work that way because there's life and all these things that have to happen. So when you have that time that you should go to bed, just for example's sake, take an hour before that. So say I decide I want to go to bed at 10:30. So 3 times a week, I'm going to go to bed at 10:30 for sure. That's it. Telling everybody, this is my plan. I'm going to bed at 10:30, 3 nights a week. Say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I know it takes me about an hour to do my stuff. So at 9:30, screens go down. That's it. So I'm going to spend, say, 20 minutes getting my stuff ready for tomorrow, making my lunches and getting stuff ready. I'm going to spend 20 minutes doing my bedtime regime, washing up, getting all that stuff. I'm going to spend 20 minutes reading, praying, meditating, journaling, whatever I have to do to kind of chill myself down from my bed. So then at 10:30, I'm actually ready to go to sleep. Okay, so maybe you don't need 20 minutes for each of those things. Maybe you need 10 or 5 or whatever, but pick what time is your bedtime, then work backwards from there. Screens go down, and then it's going to, and put it on your calendar and make sure it happens. Sleep is a priority. You can read the research yourself, but when we are not sleeping enough, our bodies are not functioning well, our minds are not functioning well, we're not processing our stress well. It's all sorts of bad stuff going on. So get your sleep. It's critical for your emotional and physical wellness. Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any techniques that they use or that works for them or that they want to share? Okay.
You know what I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just finding with all of the stress around what's going to happen. It's not like the sleep. I'm sleeping, but I don't feel like I've slept when I wake up.
So you're actually getting the number of hours in, but you don't feel rested.
Right. And it's just the stress around what's going to happen with the staff, what's going to happen with the clinics, like just all of that with the responsibility that's on my shoulders right now. I kind of feel like I did when I was expecting, because around that time, thinking about going into labor was so stressful for me that I would sleep and then I'd wake up and I'm like, oh my God. But it's just, I don't know. I mean, the routine is the same. I've even started exercising, but I'm just finding like the minute I wake up, I'm panicked.
Okay. So can I ask what's the last thing that you do before you go to sleep?
Not gonna lie, it is definitely my phone.
Okay. So the reason you thought you might want to lie is why?
Well, because then, you might say something and I'll be like, yeah, I could implement that, but then it wouldn't be fair. It's the last thing I'm checking is, did we get any new cases in Manitoba? Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, but honestly, is it gonna matter if you know that information like the minute before bed or the hour before bed? Like, is there anything that you can do about that? Like this?
Honestly, no, I agree with you, because I think in this week there was one or 2 days where I didn't listen to the 11 o'clock Manitoba Health update because I was busy with work. And then my husband came in later on that day and he's like, oh, we've got an extra case. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know because I was busy, right? And It's like kind of, it's this need for information I feel like it's an addiction.
You feel like it's an addiction because it is an addiction. That's why. You're not crazy. It is an addiction. So here's my role, which is like practically impossible, is to try and convince you that your emotional well-being even has to supersede this. Because if you don't, and you collapse from anxiety or depression or whatever else, then this whole domino is going to go along with you. Right. And so if we won't do it for ourselves, which oftentimes we won't, especially those of us that have been parents, sometimes we're not a good enough reason. But you know what is a good enough reason? The people that we love and the people that count on us and the people that we're role models for. So there's a question for you. Who do you need to be a role model for? So I'll give you an example. So a nurse, a director of nursing at Health Sciences Center brought me in because she really cared about her staff, and she really wanted her staff to take care of themselves, et cetera, et cetera. So we're doing all this wellness stuff. And then I said to her, you know, I noticed that when you were emailing me about this program, a lot of the emails came in at like 2 a.m. And as soon as I said that, her staff was like, yeah, like that happens a lot. And then they think when she's working like that they should be working like that. And here her heart was in such a good place. She wanted her staff to be well, but she wasn't demonstrating that to her staff. She didn't even realize that they knew that, but they did. So if for your own well-being isn't good enough reason, then think about your kids or your parents or your staff or who's ever looking at you to be a role model for them. How are you handling this? How do you handle the stress? And really things aren't going to be that much difference if you check it, 20 times a day or 10 times a day or 5 times a day. So, it really is about priorities, and the best way, for addictions is like, if you want to replace stop a habit, is to replace a habit. So then instead of checking that the last thing before bed, what can you do instead? It just makes it easier to change the habit when you replace it rather than trying to just stop.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What about the reverse problem, which is what I'm experiencing? I'm sleeping more because honestly, the days are just too damn long. And I have the reverse problem in that I feel completely helpless, and I'm racking my brain trying to figure out how I can in any way be helpful when I really can't do much of anything. I mean, the first 14 days, fair enough, but even on day 15, I mean, based on the recommendations and what's being asked of us, how to make myself helpful and useful in this environment for people like this other woman who's talking about how overworked and overrun she is. And I'm just sitting here going, And so I look at the clock when I would normally get up, and honestly, I just roll over, because what am I getting up to do next? Like, everything I need to do, eat, cook, exercise, pee a few times, I don't need, 13, 14, 16 hours to do it.
So when we feel like we don't have purpose or a meaning or a reason, it's easy, again, to tumble into that downward spiral, which is no bueno. But you know that people are counting on you. You know that people are watching you. You know that you have lots of gifts and talents that you can share and give to people, even if you're not in there. Like this, honest to God, I don't like Zoom. Well, I like Zoom, but I just like to be on the receiving end. I don't like to do this. I don't like to I like to be in the room. I like the people and the energy, and this is very hard for me. But this is bigger than me. It's bigger than you. We have to get out of our own way. The bar is raised. I know you, and there's a shitload of stuff that you can be doing to make things better. And I know that you function better. Most of us function better. And I will venture to say most people in my world were helping, caring, giving professionals. This is what we do for a living. We want to make other people's lives better. We just have to be creative in the way that we do it now. You have shit to do. You just haven't figured out what it is yet. Get up and do something. Just do something. Because I'm telling you, as soon as I said I was going to do this, then I felt better. Like, I immediately felt better. I woke up and I'm like, I'm going to do this. I don't know if it's going to help anybody, and it doesn't matter. It's none of my business if it even helps anybody. I mean, I hope it does, but it just made me feel better, like I was contributing in some way.
Well, in my opinion, honestly, I think what you're doing is helpful, because it's the only way we can connect and not feel isolated now. And I actually just bought a Zoom account for exactly that same reason. And all the people that we haven't connected with while we were traveling, we're Zooming with. So I appreciate what you're doing. But I will say on a second note, since you're so wise, I'll be waiting to hear any suggestions you have for me. Because I'm going to put this out to the whole group, and I think I know the answer. But today I was thinking, why don't I make soup for people? And I'll deliver it. But guess what I thought next? People will think it's probably contaminated and they won't want it. And so then I got depressed. It's like, so much for that idea. So I'm serious about that. Honestly, if you have any ideas, text me later, because I would love to know you know me well enough to know. And I want to be on day 15 forward. I want to be one of those people that makes somebody's life easier. We have had people that we don't know very well help us in the last week because we've been stuck here, and it means the world to me and to Mike, obviously, that, you know, we came home, there was nothing in our fridge.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'm putting out that I need feedback and ideas.
So for those of you that don't know Wendy, she's authored 2 cookbooks and donates all the proceeds to charity. So she's done amazing, amazing things. And I mean, did you see my video I did about like healthy chocolates? Like, I'm like the worst person in the kitchen ever. And so here's what I keep saying, here's what I think, because I don't know much, but here's what I think is that we do what we want to do at the level we want to do it, that we can do it, and how people receive it is really none of our business. So whether they take the soup and it's like the best soup they've ever had, that's great. Or whether they take the soup and they pour it down the toilet, you still get a point. You still get a point for leading a virtual yoga class, Linda. Whether nobody's there or not, I'm still getting a point whether anybody's here or not, whether they take my ideas or not, it doesn't matter. I've done this. I get a point out in the universe, in the virtual world. That's what I tell myself, because it makes me feel like I have meaning and purpose, and I'm doing something proactive rather than feeding the downward spiral in these turbulent times. So if you can release the results, I think that will free up a lot of space for new ideas. Okay, so here's one that we're all going to do together. Ready? So I want you to take your hands and I want you to rub them fast and hard until they start to warm up. And when they're nice and warm, I want you to put the heels of your hands over your eyes. And then take a deep breath in. And then I just want you to let the darkness and the warmth on your eyes just kind of settle. And when you're ready, you can take your hands off. Now, sometimes something simple like this just helps when you feel that anxiety, just helps kind of bring you down, bring you a little bit calmer. Now, I'm not sure if we have any meditators in the room, but I have tried it many times. And I remember, you know, one time the lady saying, feel the Om in your heart. And I was like, what's in my cart? Like, I just couldn't get it, you know? So I've tried many different types of meditating. But what I realized for me, something simple like staring into a candle flame, I can do that. I can do that for like 2 minutes. And sometimes I forget, and then it turns into like 7 minutes or something. So I think, you know, at whatever level you can do some form of meditation. And I've also learned that meditation doesn't have to be silent. It doesn't have to be quiet. It can be meditative when you're walking in the forest, and it can be meditative when you're engrossed in something that you really love doing. And I think that can be meditative too. And what else for your emotional well-being is, you know, things that you love doing. So for me, you know, with the music or with writing, where time goes by so fast when you're doing it. And Wendy, you know, was saying about how the day is kind of dragging on. Well, when you're doing things that you love, time goes by very fast. And if you can't remember what you love because you've been so busy taking care of everybody else for so long, think about what kind of things you loved when you were like 7 to 9 years old. Think about what area of, when you could go to the library, think about what area of the library you would go to, what books you would pull off the shelf. Think about when a newspaper used to come, what part of the newspaper would you read first? And that will maybe help you think about things that you actually, you know, used to love doing or maybe still love, and then making time in your day for those things to happen. And, you know, on the call today, we have people that, you know, have lots of time because they're isolated, and we have people that are, you know, slammed because work and the healthcare profession, they don't have the luxury to be isolated. They have to go to work. So, but still making time, even if it's just 10 minutes here or there to do something that you love. Sometimes I'll literally set the timer for 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm practicing my guitar for 10 minutes. I'm doing my Spanish for 30 minutes. I'm doing something that makes me feel better. It's not about sometimes getting better on the guitar or whatever it is. It's about what's in between your ears. It's about creating that space that says, you know what, I love this and I'm important and this is good for me and it's healthy and it makes me be a better person. Uh-huh. Okay. I'm bending over to grab a book because I'm going to talk just a teeny tiny bit about food. So if you know me at all, both my parents.
Can I interrupt for a sec?
Sure.
I just had a thought when you were going through that. I noticed that, and I was also thinking about the previous lady that spoke about what can I do, which I think is a really good question. When we've been out walking the dog, I've been picking up that people are very tense. You can just feel this sort of this kind of sadness, darkness, I don't know what, when we walk beside people, with our 2-meter distance. And I think it would be a cool thing just as you're walking to be able just to smile to people and just say a little salutation of just something very short and sweet so that they can still feel a little bit of lightness.
Yes.
That's a really nice way, I think, to feel like you're doing something important, because I think people are really getting overwhelmed and quite anxious.
I think you're right. You're definitely picking up on you're picking up on that for sure. So having something in your back pocket is a really great idea. So maybe just having, like, instead of the usual, how are you? It's like, that's not even an appropriate question. Like, we're all like fucked up. Like, that's pretty much how we are, So who wants to ask that question right now? So what else could you ask? What other question could you have in your back pocket, or statement, or something to give a little bit of levity or something? Because you know what? And for those of us in healthcare, we do have kind of a dark sense of humor anyways. But you need levity in hard times. So I think don't be afraid to put something great on Facebook, or put something funny, or put something not COVID related. I don't know if you guys saw my crazy music video today, but that was my, not to make light of what's happening, but just to make it lighter, just to make it a little bit more fun. Okay, anybody else want to weigh in on anything that's going on? I know, or Wendy's question was about if she dropped off a really amazing homemade soup.
Well, what I was thinking about is that she's written 2 cookbooks. That's awesome. I don't know if she had an interest in Zooming a recipe once a week or something like that from one of her cookbooks.
There we go. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Start sharing. Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I'm going to say absolutely for her, but I think that's a great idea. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to say is just a little bit about food. And I'm not really the guru on this for sure. Like, I'm very overweight parents and a lifetime of struggling with food, but I ran across this chef, excuse me, who's a nutritarian. I had never heard that word before, nutritarian. I've heard of vegetarian and pescatarian and all sorts of other Aryans, but I'd never heard of a nutritarian. And but the whole thing with them is they cook with nutrient-dense foods. And I thought that was really a cool way of looking at food, instead of, know this or know that, just trying to cook with really nutrient-dense foods. And how does this have to do with your emotional well-being? Well, I know when I eat a bag of Oreos or a bag of cookies, I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good physically. I don't feel good emotionally. But when I eat well, I feel really good, and I feel proud of myself, and I feel, oh, somebody's squealing. So one of the recipe that I wanted to share today is there's kind of a fudgicles, and this is how you make them. It's 2 ripe bananas, a cup of raw cashews, cocoa powder, and vanilla, and you just whisk it all up in a blender, and then put your wax paper down or your parchment paper and then flat and cut it into bars, and it makes like really yummy, nutrient dense fudgicles. So something simple like that, that just makes me feel good. And when I put good food in my body, I'm proud of myself and I feel better emotionally. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Probably you guys know more about this stuff than I do, but you know, it's easy to grab a bunch of crap. And I thought it was funny, not funny, but sad, like that all the junk food aisles are completely empty. So, you know, I just like, what? That's not what we need is potato chips. We need like good, healthy food. So yeah.
Steph, tell us again, please, the name of that cookbook. And will you just tell us that recipe slowly one more time, if you don't mind?
Sure. This book is called Eat to Live.
Okay.
200 delicious, nutrient-rich recipes. And the recipe is very few recipes I know off the top of my head, but 2 ripe bananas, 1 cup of cashews, 3 tablespoons of cocoa, and a squirt of vanilla. Whirl it up and freeze it with parchment paper underneath.
Thank you. That's awesome.
And so I promised you 40 minutes, and it is 40 minutes. I could go on and on, but if you guys have any, so this is my kind of list of things when I've done all those 2-minute videos. I will be sharing that. And the other thing is, so for me, just a little inside information. So of course, when all this happened, all my engagements were canceled. So literally 0 income for the foreseeable future, every penny gone. So there was a huge financial worry as well as emotional worry and And then I woke up with this idea to do this emotional wellness thing. And I was like, okay. And I actually, so the next person that called to cancel, I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this. And she actually wanted to buy 4 of them. And then I just felt really shitty about selling them. I'm just like, well, I don't think I want to sell these. So everything that I'm doing and all these videos that are going to be coming out, everything is going to be free. And this is what I'm choosing to believe. I'm just believing in the law of reciprocity, that when you do good, good comes back at you. Sometimes it comes back in the form of a paycheck. That's not what's happening this time, but you do good and good comes back. So not just for me, but for you too. Whatever you do at whatever level you do it, it's going to come back some way, some day, some time. That's what I believe to be true. I believe in the future, in the near future, we're going to look back at this and go like, holy crap, that was crazy. Wasn't that crazy? Wasn't that crazy? But we handled it well and we banded together and we're better than we were before. That is what I choose to believe. Is it true? I don't know, but I know it makes me feel better when I put those thoughts in my head. That's what I believe to be true. So if things are not serving you well, do something different. Just do something different. Stop doing the same things over and over that aren't getting you to where you want to go. You don't have to change everything, but change something. Just change one little thing, and that will change the trajectory of where you're going to end up. I know that. I know that. So before I sign off, does anyone have anything they'd like to say or add or ask or?
Thank you very much. It was amazing. Much appreciated.
Sending you a huge hug, Steph. Thank you.
Thank you. Big hug. So this is like the handshake, but I feel like the 2 is like the hug. So, and I'm so glad I wasn't here talking to myself. So thanks a bunch for spending your Sunday evening with me. And maybe we'll do it again. And if there is specific questions or anything that you want to know or you want me to address, I don't know everything, but I have a view anyways. So I know we're bringing a like-minded community together. It's kind of a cool thing to do. So just let me know. Thank you so much. It's Stephanie Staples, yourlifeunlimited.ca. If you're looking for this book, you can get it for free. So yourlifeunlimited.ca/Wes for When Enlightening Strikes. You can download it for free. And also on my website, if you go to the resources page, you can download my guided journal, which is basically a blank book, but it has questions and quotes. And so it's just like, it's kind of like that prompt to get you to be writing things, and it's free. So enjoy it. That's it. Signing off. Bye for now.